Good evening, everyone, and welcome to Out of Nowhere. Well, my guest tonight is Sebastian Martin. As an infant, Sebastian experienced a remarkable healing because of his Pleiadian Extraterrestrial's intervention using what he describes as the Black Goo. Can we please welcome Sebastian to the show? Hello there.
Thank you, Bob. How are you today?
I'm good, thank you very much. It's so nice to have you on my show.
hmm
What inspired you to write The Inner Journey in an Outer Space in the first place?
Well, I mean, I obviously had many different types of experiences over the years, and I thought it was a good way for me to, um, you know, add all my experiences in one place. And I had to research the dates, and for whatever happened to me, obviously through emails and whatever correspondence I was having. So I was able to compile that into one book. And it sounds like a lot when you read it. Even if it's I don't know, like over maybe 200 pages long. But the idea behind that was that people could understand that it takes a lot of time and years to get there. So um, yeah, the years that I've experienced for since 2011 were already enough or plenty on its own, but I had to start from the beginning as to know about my healing journey I could describe with the Black Goo. That's when I was about 6 months old. So a lot of things occurred since I was born and after. So basically, I just had to go through that over time. And yeah, that's the reason why I was writing that book, is to give a testimony of my own experiences for people to read about and connect to, because my background was not in ufology or ETs. I was just interested in other things. um, yeah.
I can imagine you are as well. Tell us about when you were about 16 and you was abducted.
Yeah, so when I was 16 years old, I was at a high school, and I was basically just a boarder, and I had some very strange experiences that year because I was, waking up pretty much quite often with like nosebleeds and headaches, pounding headaches, and I was doing a lot of out of body experiences. So I was traveling a lot in the astral, and it ended up to be, for me, it was memories that I still have today. I still remember those out of body experiences from when I was 16. But what's most interesting was during my art classes, I used to draw an alien language that was almost like automatic writing that I was doing from top to bottom and from left to right. And I was filling up notebooks and notebooks after notebooks on with that language, which I did not understand. But it felt like I was compelled to do that for 2 hours, in a row. And I didn't know why. I didn't have any ET experiences or recollections of being abducted or anything else then, because all I know and all I remember is I had a lot of experiences from bilocation when I was 16 as well. So lots of my classmates used to see me at different places. I did not remember any of that myself, but they did, obviously. And I thought they were just making fun of me and just, joking around, but they were not. They were dead serious. And, those friends are still my friends today, and they are still sticking to the same story. So that was one of many bilocation experiences I had, but it all started around when I was 16 years old. And the reason why that experience was so interesting and strong, it's because when I grew older and I decided to be hypnotized, to be regressed, because I had many traumatic experiences with visions. And those visions were pretty traumatic in the sense that they were apocalyptic. I could see the end of the world pretty much through those visions, and I could feel those feelings like internally, like I was living through these experiences, and it was not pleasant. So the hypnotherapist allowed me to go back to the visions as to when they started, which was when I was 16. I used to have a lot of visions about classmates as well, which I knew would happen, and prophetic visions. So I had those early on, but it was definitely stronger when I was 16. So the therapist said to me, "Well, how about we go back to when you were 16 years old, then, since this is when you had the most experiences in your life, as to maybe to fix or to get rid of the visions that you have now, if it's disturbing to you in your life." And she did offer me two options, which was one, to get rid of the visions altogether, or to control them. And so I opted for the second option. It's to be able to control those visions. But in order to do that, I had to remember what happened to me, and as to why. And so this is what happened while I was being regressed. You have to realize at that point in my life that I did not believe in hypnotherapy. All I remembered was my dad telling me, "Oh, this is like from circus acts. You can go on stage and they make you look like a chicken or act like a chicken." And so that's what I believed about hypnotherapy. I didn't really know much about the details, but I went for that to try it out. And sure enough, I was a good subject, and I was able to be regressed to when I was 16. And I remember that session where I was asked to look at my feet, and I was describing what I was wearing, on myself. And all of a sudden, I was describing leaving the ground. And so I was in my schoolyard, at high school, and it was at night, and I knew that I was being lifted up in the air, and then I was placed on my back, and looking towards my feet, I could see a spacecraft. And I was describing something in a very objective manner, like I was not really almost like feeling it, because at that point, I believe that I had a very strong imagination, and that whatever I was seeing so easily was just a fragment of my imagination and nothing else. So I wasn't scared or frightened by it, actually.
No.
And so when I came into that spacecraft feed first, then I remember seeing those tall gray aliens surrounding me. There were some behind me, some on my sides, and I couldn't see the ones behind me, but I could feel they were doing something to me, either placing some sort of device on my head, and they were putting some things on my arms. But it didn't feel like I was on a slab or anything else. It felt like I was hovering in the craft. And the beings that I was seeing were tall gray aliens, and they were, for me, like strange, because they were whitish in color, grayish. They had a glow, almost like a different color, like showing on their skin. It's like it was changing texture, on their
Yeah.
skin. It was very smooth, very, very smooth. No hair, nothing. And they had like these big black eyes and the whole nine yards, like pretty much how you would describe the gray aliens, but they were the tall ones. They were the doctors. And so while I was describing that scene, the therapist was asking me, what's going on and everything else. So I was describing the room, and it looked pretty clinical and white all around, pretty much like round. Felt like an oval location. And then she asked me to describe them and to pay attention to what they were doing and even saying. And I remember saying they're having this guttural sound that they are communicating with one another, but I can't understand,
Right.
because it was a foreign language, obviously, an alien language. And she said to me, "Well, why don't you just ask them what they're arguing about? Because you can, under hypnosis, you can ask them what they're arguing about." And so I asked, and the first thing they said was, "We can't touch you because you already have been tampered with." That's the reply I got, and
Well,
I didn't know what that meant. And so when I shared that with the therapist, she said, "Why don't you just ask them what that means?" And I was met with silence. And so right after, she said, can they show you what they mean by that? And they show me some holograms, symbols, like in between them and me, and they were like bluish in color. And those holograms, like one of them was an upside down triangle with like three black dots on each point. There was a staff, and there was a seven pointed star. And so that didn't mean anything to me, but I just described what I saw. I even drew it because I was able to come out of hypnosis, draw it perfectly, and then going back under.
Oh
And
my God.
so while I was doing that, then she said, "Well, can they tell you what those symbols mean?" And once again, I was met with silence. And so this is exactly the transformation for me, is when I truly believe the hypnosis is the next question, which was from the therapist saying, can they show you where you've seen those symbols before, if they mean anything to you? This was the question. And
Hmm.
at that point, that's when I blacked out under hypnosis, and I felt I was going backwards very fast. And when I opened my eyes again, under hypnosis, obviously, I could see my hands and I could see my body as a baby. I was a baby, and I was in what you described as black goo. And the liquid was very black, very silky looking. And inside the container I was in, I could see these upside down omega symbols all around the hinges, and there was a very opaque glass dome over me that I couldn't see much through, so I could see silhouettes walking by. And so while I was describing this, and again, I felt very vulnerable. I could feel myself as a
Yeah.
baby, and I had all the emotions associated with it. So the therapist said, "Can you come out of your body and see where you are?" And so I literally did that, and I came out of my body, and I described the next scene, which was it's all black all around me, and I can see this massive spacecraft underneath me, and it's like a big mothership. It looks like a cubic ship, and right underneath that there is the Earth, and I know exactly why I'm inside the spaceship. And so she panicked, and the therapist panicked and asked me to go back into my body. And so then she said, "Can you please now come out of your body but stay in a room?" And that's exactly what I did. So I stayed in the room, and that's where I saw the Pleiadian beings on the ship. And there was a man and a woman, and they had this upside down triangle on their chest with the three black dots. And so that was their emblem or symbol on their chest. And I described, what I could, and the man looked more like a Zeus, like he had like a beard, and he had a trident symbol on his forehead, with a crown, almost like something like that. But it was metallic of some kind. And the woman was as tall as he was, and she was pretty much like blonde, long-haired woman, still wearing the same blue outfit. And so then I felt connected to the ship on its own, which was the ship had basically just an organic feel to it. I could feel that it was living matter. Everything was breathing, intelligent, and it could have been artificial intelligence embedded into the craft. So, but it had different colors, like almost like orange tones to it, and then the ground was pretty much like green, not very much like very uniform, like plain white or gray. It was colorful. And so then I felt called back into my body as a baby and back into that container, and I felt that uh, the liquid, the black goo, was moving, like waving around, and I was like scared. I felt so scared. Like all I wanted was my mommy. I was literally in that moment where I felt so vulnerable that I craved to be with my mom, and I was crying under hypnosis. It was that powerful. I could feel it, emotionally speaking,
Hmm.
and I could feel the liquid going over my body. And the interesting part as to know why this happens is because when I was born, I was diagnosed with a genetic mutation or disease called Lenner-Mussus disease, which was a skin condition that the first layer of my epidermis was non-present. So when I was born, I was pretty much raw and screaming because I could feel the pain from all the fabrics around me, and I had special diapers and all of that, and doctors didn't know what to do with me. They had no clue. So they were just flabbergasted by my condition, and it took them a while to diagnose me with that because they didn't know at the time. In France, it was not as famous or known, and so a doctor from Switzerland had to come over and check me out and say, "Oh yeah, that's Linear Musus. I know what that is." And they said it will come back, like his skin will grow back, but it will take some time. And but he also said that I would be ending up to be like 5 feet tall, and I will have like health issues for the rest of my life, which is a major condition of Linear Musus. And again, nobody knows as to what happened. Like I've met with pediatricians down the line, even through my workshops with Terra Novelis that I'm doing here in Canada. And that woman didn't know. She couldn't explain why I look so different because I'm 6'2" and I'm not, very skinny. And and I never had health issues, since. I'm pretty much very healthy. I don't get colds. I'm very, very, very healthy in general. And so it's a big mystery. And I believe that the Black Goo, whatever I was in touch with at that point when I was 6 months old, is what healed me and completely changed my DNA. So in essence, because of what happened, I do believe that I'm a hybrid as a human being because of what I've been subjected to. Because without it, my genes and my DNA would be very different.
Do you think some of us are from aliens?
Some of us,
Some of us are we got our own DNA from the aliens?
I mean, all of us are, yes. Not just some of us, all of us are. I mean, the genetic manipulations that occurred over time with the human race has been going on for thousands of years. So it's not uncommon to, to understand that from monkeys or chimps that we end up to be that intelligent, and at the same time we have some components and mutations still ongoing. Like you think about the eyes alone. Our eyes, to start with, were all brown, and there was a genetic mutation happening over time, which ended up us to have blue eyes. But if you scrape off the blue of the eyes, it's brown behind it. So, we are always subjected to mutations, and that's just through DNA and time. But originally speaking, we have been subjected to many manipulations from the Anunnaki to the Pleiadians. We've gone through many different mutations, and we retained some of those, and a lot of that is in our junk DNA. So it's just a matter of unlocking whatever is in the junk DNA to make us feel whole. Because the reason why I have memories of my past lives and even my Pleiadian life is because I'm not as locked as most people, and I've been fortunate enough to remember many things consciously, and was led to have those experiences because I was paying attention to the synchronicities, and so that's why I recall more than most people. That's all.
How has your own personal journey influenced the ideas in the book?
My personal journeys influenced it. Well, yeah, it's basically just based on what I've experienced. So I just paid attention to all the tiny, minute details to add into the book because everything matters. It all contributes towards who I am today. And without them, and the thing is, when I was experiencing all of that, I was not forgetting why it was happening to me, and I always remembered it. So to compile all of this information allowed me to make sense of it all at the end. Because it never happened by accident. It was always for a reason.
I can imagine so as well. Yeah.
Yeah.
Tell me about how did you get into remote viewing?
Oh wow, yeah, that's by accident. So I was doing radio shows in 2016. So I started by talking about my experiences on radio shows, and at some point I went to a UFO conference in America, and I was interviewed by Kerry Cassidy
Right.
for her for her video, and so that video became viral kind of thing on the internet, and it got a lot of attention from all sorts of people. And at the time, Facebook allowed people to have up to 10,000 friends, and so I was maxing out my inbox with 10,000 friends very quickly, and just having lots of people, trying to approach me, and I didn't know who they were. Obviously, I didn't communicate with them. I was not screening anyone at the time, and so all of a sudden, one day, I remember I was in bed, and I woke up, and I remember seeing this woman being in a car, and she was hiding in the back of a car. And she was looking through the back window, and she could see three men walking across a crowd. It looked like in a Middle Eastern country. I'm not quite sure where it was. It was, Iraq or
Yeah.
Lebanon or Iran, whatever it was. I had no idea, but they did look Middle Eastern for sure, and I was able to describe them. And out of the 10,000 people on my Facebook, I knew who that person was. So I decided to reach out to her through Messenger, and I described what I was seeing. And I said, I know what you are doing as a job, which was CIA. And I said, your life is in danger, and you need to get out. You need to get out of your place you are in, because your safe house has been blown. And so, whatever I was seeing through that vision, I was also receiving downloads of informations about that woman, as to know why she was leaving, because it's not something I saw; it's something that I knew. And so this is usually what happens with me when I remote view. I don't remote view through the same means as control remote viewing, where you have like a number and or a target, and then you just have to draw and write down the feelings and whatever goes through. I don't do that. For me, I see mini movies. So, and that's how it started, and I didn't know what it was. But when I contacted that woman, then she replied to me 3 weeks later, not right away, and she sent me a picture of a man, and she asked me, "Is that the man that you saw in the crowd?" And I said, "Yes, that's one of them. He was the leader." And she said, "Okay, thank you." And that's what she said. And then again, it was uh, I didn't hear from her for a while, and then she contacted me again, and she sent me a newspaper article, and it was about two women who died in Jordan, and the newspaper clip was showing them as being dead by suicide. That they jumped off of the top of a building and died. And when I was reading the article, I just realized that I was seeing the actual events, and I was connecting to these women, and I was able to see that one of them was a journalist, and the other one was working for the Jordanian government. And so I was able to provide those details, and to also explain that it was not a suicide, and that they were pushed by two men, two soldiers from the top of the building. And the response I got from that was, well, we knew of one soldier, not two. So not only she was just validating what I was seeing, but she was testing me all the time with those kind of newspaper articles. And the reason why she did that, and she got interested in me in the first place, was because in my interviews, I was describing a vision that I had about Rafik Hariri, who was the ex prime minister of Lebanon. And he died in a car bombing. But I saw the whole event through the scope of an agent on the rooftop. And I was describing when he opened up his window and I could see his face with his
Oh.
mustache and everything else. And that's how he died, because he opened up his window. If his window was still up, he would have been fine, because the car was bomb-proof. But because
Oh.
the window was open, that's how he died. But no one knew this. So it was not in the papers, it was nowhere. And so I became a person of interest from these agencies, because they were wondering how I knew this information.
Yes.
So like I said, I didn't know I was being followed and checked on social media and all of that, but this was the reason why that woman was following me on Facebook. And so when she realized that her cover was blown because I was approaching her for letting her know that I knew who she was and what she was doing, that kind of sparked an interest in her because she already knew what remote viewing was, obviously, and she was training me to do it in a better, more efficient way. So this is how it all started. And again, the newspaper articles were one aspect of it, and then we branched out to more details. Like I would say, I was being told to say, okay, well, we have a mission that's about to happen, and we are trying to vouch for the team members. And she was saying, I was wondering if you could just remote view them and tell me what you pick up on them. And this is again a kind of a blind remote viewing because I knew nothing of the people and I could see them. Like I was able to pick up on their faces, on their gender, on their stories. So I knew about their background and I was able to pick up on details that even the CIA didn't know about. So they found my involvement very useful. And again, I picked up on things like that where you have to realize I was only asked very specific questions without given any details because everything was super compartmentalized and I had no clearance. So for me to be involved in that was already kind of weird, for them because that's why they were very careful in sharing specific details with me. But unfortunately for them, I got to see more than what they were sharing with me because I was remote viewing the whole scene, and I was able to branch out from one person to another, almost like a network. And I was accessing the whole network and to even get to the mission name. So I was really getting super involved. And as I got more and more involved and I was providing more details, they kind of brought me more into more I would say situations where at some point in time there was a general from the Pentagon was willing to fly over to my in my backyard to meet with me because they wanted to recruit me. I know they wanted to recruit me, and I said no. I panicked. I was sent the basically all the forms to do the security clearance and to have a top secret clearance, and it was very long. But the fact was, at that time, I was married to a British woman actually, and she knew nothing of my experiences. And so, when I started to panic a bit about what was going on, knowing that the general was about to land, I had to share with her what I went through for the last years of our lives, and I had a nervous breakdown over it because I felt that after she told me, so we have kids, you are putting them in danger, or you could put them in danger. You should really think that twice. And I did, and I decided to cancel the meeting. And I said, if I do remote viewing, it will be for multiple agencies or whoever asks for my help, but I won't be tied to one agency in particular. And it was probably the best move I've done. But yes, it doesn't mean that I received the top secret clearance that I was hoping for. But at the same time, it doesn't matter because I was still getting involved in those missions, and I knew more as time went by. And I got involved with more people, more agents, got introduced to way more people, and that was to me something that I was able to benefit from because learning from one agency to another and seeing how they could even work with one another as well through the Five Eye agencies that allowed me to broaden my horizons and knowledge.
I'm going to ask you a good question. Do you see parallels between astronauts exploring space and individuals exploring their consciousness?
Oh, uh, well, I mean, I think it's kind of different. Astronauts have a different viewpoint when they see the Earth from space. They feel really humbled by what they see down below, knowing that our Earth is so small in the vastness of space, but at the same time, wondering why do we have so many conflicts on Earth? Why can't we just be all united since we're all on one small rock together? And that's what humbles them the most. And deep down, when we do an inner journey, when that's exactly what I've done through meditation, transcendental meditation since the age of 7, I was able to do this inner work, trying to look within, so to expand my consciousness. And that's exactly what the parallels could be, to show that we should be humble based on what we're experiencing and what is out there, because we don't have all the answers, but at the same time we're always trying to we strive to get some kind of answers and to access the truth. I think there's only one truth, and being honest with yourself and trying to access it is what people's life journeys are all about. Trying to remember who they are and trying to reconnect to source, because that's where we all come from, and that's where unity exists.
Could exploring the cosmos actually change how we understand ourselves spiritually?
Being understanding the cosmos, if it can help us out, yeah, I think it does. Obviously, just to find out who we are as a species, and we are not as simple as what most people think. So, because of the mutations and what's happening between over time, what happened, and remembering all of this and reconnecting to all of this is what sets us apart, because we can understand the purpose of the universe and the purpose of source, and what we're supposed to be achieving. Like, I've done some presentations on source consciousness and soul journeys because I have all of these memories. I have been fortunate enough to communicate with archangels, and they showed me the reality of the universe. They sent me back to source. They showed me what we call the Big Bang, the creation of planets, and they also showed me how small the Pleiadians are in terms of alien beings. They are no different than us. They are basically experiencing their own consciousness journey, also remembering who they are. And what most people don't pay attention to is that while human beings can have past life experiences, Pleiadians and other species also have past life experiences too. And it doesn't mean that they were Pleiadians either. They could have been other species altogether, because they are all connected to source, and they also have a soul as much as we do. The difference is that, and that's what I've seen through my communications with the archangels, is that the Pleiadians were able to manipulate the soul energy for learning. So they were able to extract the soul energy and divide it so they can have multiple experiences on other planets. And that's how they can learn and evolve faster than human beings, because they have access to this technology.
In your opinion, what happens when people neglect their inner world?
Well, that's pretty much straightforward in my eyes. I think when you start neglecting yourself and your inner world, it means you are pretty much living in your shadow. You're not yourself. You could live a very simple life, but at the same time, you will only be living a lie, because whatever we live in this dimension has been created for us to live like sheep. And so we don't evolve because we're so oppressed by laws and by human emotions too, and the stress of life, that we don't do enough work internally. And that's the problem with most people. We don't take the time to look within, and the reason why we always look outwards, we always look on those tablets and computer screens, and that's just a distraction from our own lives. We don't understand who we are because we never really look deep enough within. So I think not remembering this and not actively doing the work will prevent you from experiencing more than what you are currently doing right now as a human being. You could just be living a very shallow life with a 9 to 5 job and hating every minute of it because you wouldn't know any different. But again, some people might enjoy that because they don't want to explore more. They are just simply content in that life form, having this kind of life, not questioning anything. They may have a religion, they may go to church or whatever. They may want to get some kind of spirituality in their life, but it doesn't mean that they will want to look within. So that's part of the human race journey as well. Like, we can't push for enlightenment with everybody. Like, I think everybody has their own journey to go through, and if it's not their lifetime or their journey right now to expand their consciousness, then to be for the next life. We can't force it on anyone. And I think for those who are ready, and for those who are becoming aware, and for those who are awakening to this new reality, the only thing I can say is we can simply provide the tools to allow them to see if they are willing to see, but you can't force it onto anyone. So this is what I do in my journey. I'm providing workshops with people. I have the tools to help them remember who they are as human beings, but also as star seeds, or even connected with their loved ones. I can do that using binaural frequencies in my workshops. And we do like qigong practices, which again allow and help them with their inner journey. They are eating very healthy foods. They also do hypnotherapy sessions. So I'm providing like a very whole experience for them to maximize their experiences over 5 to 6 days in this workshop. So I think, like I said, people may decide to simply overlook their own consciousness simply by living their day-to-day jobs, but it doesn't mean that that's what we're meant to do. We are all meant to awaken at some point in time.
If humanity becomes spacefaring civilization, what inequalities we will need most? What do you think we need most?
Compassion is one of them. I think being compassionate will allow everybody to feel more, and the feeling of connecting to source and connecting to one another is the utmost important connection that we need to create for evolving as a human species, because we are meant to feel more, and we are being completely subdued and attacked by the news media and what's going on, and it's all negative. And we can see that we become desensitized by those realities of war, and looking at it from a distance, thinking it's not happening in my backyard, so why do I care? And that's exactly the problem with evolution. Is we need to be more aware that those realities are harming one another, and that we should not be complacent and try to ignore it, because we need to being part of this change. And so this is what I'm teaching my own children, trying not to be hateful, and trying to be more open with everything else, but observing is important. So I think all of these components are very important for the human evolution.
What role does curiosity play in both space exploration and self-discovery?
Mm-hmm. Yes. Is that a question?
Yeah.
So, can you repeat the question? Because with your very strong accent from Northern England, I didn't quite get it. Sorry.
What role does
Yes.
curiosity play in both space explorations and self-discovery?
What role? Well, space exploration is basically pushing the boundaries of knowing what's out there, to see if we are not alone as a human species on the planet, which is kind of ironic, because we know that we have some human beings that could be actually interacting with ET beings on Earth and being aware of many species. We are seeing that through all these disclosure programs that are currently ongoing, with ET living in so many countries. And yet, all the First Nations in each country, and all the shamans and the leaders of these countries know of their existence. So it's kind of ironic in a way to see that we are trying to push for like space exploration, when in fact the answers are right on our doorstep. We just we just don't. Again, it could just be another distraction, because we know that we have harnessed enough technologies to explore different planets without using rockets, for example. We can use black holes, we can use portals on Earth, stargates that we have access to. Many of the agencies that I've been working with already know and use those stargates. Um, the equivalent of NASA in France was using already glass holes, and they were using that in the lab, where they were like throwing cans of Coke through the glass hole, and then the can was disappearing, and they could trace uh, the the voyage of that can of Coke through space.
Oh,
And they were able to do that when I was maybe 16 years old. So these kind of technologies have been around. We just don't know as much as human beings. We have to be more involved in those programs to really know what's going on. As to know about the inner journey, and again, it's the same kind of thing. We just want to explore within, so we can get more answers as to know where we come from and who we are, and connecting to those other beings in space. That eventually, if we meet them, we won't be as frightened, and that's the goal of the current awakening process. So we can be more familiarized with what's out there, because we don't want to live in fear either. Fear is the worst enemy for human consciousness and expansion of consciousness. So we need to fight that, and we need to be more aware and educate ourselves on the topic. That's what I'm saying.
what one idea from the book you hope every reader's remembers from your book?
Well, that's very general. I would say that most people can read my story as a genuine testament of my life, and being a businessman and having those extraordinary experiences. I have been approached by many business like-minded people who also told me that that book allowed them to be themselves, and to start talking to their family members and friends about their own journey and their own experiences, because they were living in a closet, per se, with their experiences, and so they had to come out and share it. So I think the openness and the simplicity of my book allows people to connect to it. And the wording that I've been using have been triggering people and awakening people. So many of people experience Kundalini awakening from this book. And I just show it to you right now. This is the cover. And
Yeah.
you can see there's the world, and there's a being right there. So it's facing the planet, and that's basically what we're all about. This is like the look of oneself, looking within this vastness of the universe and our own planet, and to embrace that within ourselves. So I think it's allowing people to remember who they are, and I think that book has been, like I said, a good testament for that. It's been helping many people, and some may not see the true meaning of that book until they read it a second time, and then they can have more information that allows them to understand themselves more. So yeah.
If you could send one message to the future humans living on other planets, what would it be?
So that's assuming if other humans will be living on other planets.
Yeah, correct.
Well, first of all, we have to realize that even our home planet right now will change drastically, because the dimension that we live in will also evolve. The Gaia, the Earth, will evolve to something definitely more volatile. It won't be as dense as it is today, and that would allow us to connect to not just our own Earth, but also the different layers of dimensions within the Earth, which is why my business is called Terra Novelis, as like new Earth. And the logo that I'm using also has multiple layers over that sphere, because these are all the different layers of dimensions on this planet that we will have to eventually discover. And you know, other human beings on other planets, yes, sure, we will get there, but you also have to realize that all of these human beings will eventually become our future Pleiadians and Arcturians and Andromedans and Greys, because they're going to be adapting to their home planet environment. And so, if I had to share a message with them, I would say, remember who you were. And that's exactly what they are doing right now. They are always coming back to their roots, coming back to see us because we are their ancestors. And so they're trying to remember who they were simply by reconnecting to our human emotions, because they've lost that along the way. With technological advancements, with evolution, they became more guarded. And with that, yes, they've learned way more. They had access to more technology. They became smarter, you name it. They traveled the universe, no problem. But it doesn't mean that they understood their own evolution. They've lost track with their own evolutionary process, and that prevented them to get closer to source. And this is one of their journey as ETs, is to remember who they are. And so this is my biggest message: is do not forget who you are.
Correct. What do you think about disclosure then? Will it ever
Mhm.
happen? And if not, why?
Yes, disclosure is happening to some extent, but you also have to realize that within every agency, you have different people working there who are guarding certain secrets. It's highly compartmentalized, and some people within those agencies, within one agency alone, some people may be pro disclosure and some may be against it, simply because they cannot disclose the same information that we all wish to get. So that's the reason why we have partial disclosure right now. We have more and more stuff coming up, because eventually we'll have no choice but knowing the true definition of being a human. And this is the biggest secret. I think it's once the people know what we are and where we come from, it could be a very scary reality that I don't think most people are aware of, or are prepared to know. And that's the reason why the full disclosure is being halted, because of that. Because I don't believe that people will be ready to know, for example, that there have been some contracts signed between governments and ETs. And one of them is to do with the hybridization process for the Greys and for alien abductions. So when you have ETs who are abducting children, and those kids never come back, they would just like stay away. They would be used for experiments. That's the sad truth of what the governments has signed up for, and as a human species, we agreed to it. So once we understand that we have a choice, but we have the free will, but deep down we already agreed to live those experiences as soul beings, and so good and bad, we are embracing the whole thing. And so for me, it's to know that while we are having an experience, remembering everything through disclosure, we shouldn't be waiting for disclosure to get the answers. We can get all of these answers by ourselves, by knowing, by remembering. It's all accessible to anybody without the secrecy of government agendas. So I will not rely on that. I think if people are doing the work and trying to connect to their star families, for example, that will allow them to get way more information. When I started doing my workshops again, I organized them in teams. So team 1, team 2, team 3, over time, connect with each other, and they have created a network. And those people are now helping each other on a global scale. And that is the beauty of disclosure, because all of these beings, all of these people that came through, remember who they are. They have those memories back, and they're cherishing it, and they're connecting with each other every single week. Every week, they talk to each other, pretty much like we're doing right now. We are basically just the teams are getting larger and larger and larger, and are communicating with one another, which is why on my website I have the tagline for saying, you come as a friend and you leave as family, because we are a big family. And this is what disclosure will not allow us to remember. They will filter the information out and only share what is, I would say, okay to share, but without too much details. And that's exactly what Trump signed up for. And at the end, regardless of what he said in America for disclosing information, the people in charge will decide what is or can be released, and it will be very vague. And it doesn't have to be sensitive. It could just be something about UFOs being spotted in the sky. We've seen that before in many countries. We had the same thing, like in the UK, in France. Like, they disclosed some information, like police reports and these kind of things, but it's not groundbreaking. It doesn't really show how ET beings are interacting with us on Earth. Now, Anna Paulina Luna was a congresswoman in the US, has disclosed as much. She did say that she has seen files where multidimensional beings were walking among us. So she did say it on national television. And when you hear that, and you got people watching the news and being so desensitized by the news, not even caring about what's going on, I think deep down we are ready for disclosure, because people don't care. It's almost as if like they could listen to the truth and without panicking anymore, because they're so desensitized. So if we can, if we can, what's that?
Do you think it'll take a big mothership to explore many cities in the universe to show what they are like?
Well, I mean, that could help. Obviously, we are aware of USOs, the basically underwater UFOs with bases. A lot of alien bases are under many lakes, many body of water, and they are right here on Earth. And a lot of these agencies work with them, and you can see human beings interacting with those ET beings on Earth. So this is very common in many countries, not just America. We talked before the show about potential base close to where you live, and I think there are a lot of undersea UFOs in the Black Sea, for example. We know that, but again, this is all paired with what we call the secret space program and the ETs and the Galactic Federation. It's a very broad subject, and it's global. So we know that those disclosure events will happen. It just takes time, because it's also paired with Wall Street. It's paired with obviously the stock exchange, and the banks. All the banks around the world know of this reality. They have been aware of that reality for a long time, and they are actually changing as we speak all of their policies. And I think there was an article published on that in the UK. I can't remember the article. You may find it out at some point. Yeah. But they were saying that if they could change their policies, embracing the reality of UFOs on Earth, what kind of impact will it have on the banking industry? So this is exactly what they're currently working on, because the whole New World Order and what we talked about with the digital currency and the cryptocurrency and all of that, this is all designed for that, because they are moving away from not just the gold standard, they will be moving away from the fiat currencies as well, and embracing a new reality. And the commodities that we're going to be facing down the line will no longer be the same commodities that we are using today. Oil and gas will become something like fossil fuels will be things of the past, once we are embracing newer technologies that won't be as expensive, but like Tesla created the AC current, and it could have been free
Free energy, yeah.
He created free energy way back when, and then J.P. Morgan destroyed his towers and everything else. He didn't stop funding him because he didn't want to give free energy to the world. He didn't want to give free Wi-Fi, to the world. So that's the thing with the greed of powerful people. We are seeing that kind of control, but at the same time, we know that we are being pushed towards disclosure, and those big giants cannot fight it anymore. And the reason is being is because there's an evolution that's occurring and an awareness that constantly is growing, and people are starting questioning things. And that's the main thing. We need to keep questioning and pushing for disclosure. And this is exactly what's going on right now. We have more and more disclosure events occurring. More and more information is filtered out but shared. I'm doing my bit as well. I shared a lot of the information that I've experienced through Gaia TV and online, like I'm doing here. This is all part of disclosure. We are all trying to help one another to awaken and to get the answers that we deserve.
What's your next journey you personally want to explore?
Oh, that's a big one. I'm still on the same journey, which has always been living my truth and carry on based on what I've already gone through, what I've experienced. There's always something new. Like Terra Novelis for me as my business is a new venture for me. I only started that in October, and it's been a great way for me to not only use my remote viewing skills to help people, simply because I can see what they are going through when they have an experience, and I can comment on that, and I can help them remembering who they are. And this is my current journey on a smaller scale, but I'm also doing those kind of interviews. I'm also doing some online presentations that I'm sending on the website, but people can purchase like 12 hours of talks that I've done over 3 weekends. And this is all helping one another. I think people are embracing those stories as being part of their own stories because they can relate to it. So the more I do like conferences, the more I do shows, the more it's helping people, and the more it's also awakening people to do their own journey and their own conferences and their own workshops. So I receive people coming over here who basically said to me, before I came, I was doing tarot card reading for individuals in my house, but I know I'm meant to be doing some workshops for people, and she's doing it now. After coming over here, and I encouraged her for doing it. We're not competing with one another. We're all doing the same work. And the more people do it, the better it's going to be, and the more awakened people will be out there. And we need people to awaken. So the more we put it out there, the more we are sharing these informations with people, the more people will awaken and listen to it. Because they may not listen to the first time around, but at some point in time, they will be accessing this information again if the time allows. And so they will be picking up on things. I can give you an example. I used to have friends who used to be very critical of my experiences because they couldn't relate to it, and they were very close-minded. And now, with what's happening on the internet and what's happening in their feed, on their phones, whatever, they see the world is changing, and they need to adapt to it. And so they're asking questions now. And I even had one of my friends who knew nothing about his aspirations or goals or interest, and he decided to join my workshop with his wife. And he's a close friend of mine, and he paid to come over to do the workshop. And he was so involved, and he wants to know more. He wants to know more every day. Like, he's researching it, he's embracing it, like it's part of his life now. It's amazing.
Yeah, we're just about nearly finished the show. Where can people get your book?
People can purchase my book, Inner Journey in Outer Space, on Amazon. In the UK, you can go to amazon.co.uk and type it in with my name on it. It will show up. And that's pretty much it at this point. They can also go on my website at terranovelis.com, which is TERA, Novelis, NOVELIS.com. And there's also a workshop section there with some basically apparels and stuff that you can purchase on the website. So there are two options.
So when's your classes then?
My next class will be April 26, 2026, in Duncan, BC, British Columbia, in Canada. And so I have people flying from all over the place already. I had some neuroscientists coming in, university professors, from people from all walks of life. And right now, the next class coming, I've got people from America, Mexico, Australia, Europe. It's from all over the world. And I only do very small classes because I want you for the experience to be very intimate. So I'm only have up to like 6 to 7 people at a time. And that's plenty for me. And I can really spend one-on-one with each individual when I do those workshops.
I think that's a great thing to have. It's no use having a big crowd of people there because some people are not going to take it in.
No,
others will.
That's right. Exactly. So
and you probably learned from that over the years.
Yes, that's right. Yeah, I mean, I've done conferences and I've talked to larger groups of people as well. But I do believe that the smaller platform allows me to share more information in a more intimate way. And I do the same thing on Gaia TV. When I do those interviews, it's very intimate. Very small studios, and it reaches a much broader audience. So I'm basically providing it in different ways. I sometimes talk about consciousness when I do those Gaia shows, and we are basically branching out to so many different topics. Yeah,
brilliant, absolutely fantastic. Thank you for coming on the show. It's been very interesting.
Well, thank you very much for having me, Bob. Thank you so much.
I've enjoyed it. And have a lovely weekend. Carry on what you're doing. I'm sure everybody around the world are interested in your talks.
Yes.
So you take care. Have a lovely weekend.
Thank you. You too.
And I'll catch you later this year sometime. I'll have you back on again.
Okay, perfect. Thank you so much. Okay, bye-bye.
Bye.